All right. Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Ministry Revealed. It is February 26th, 2021, and we have another study note series teaching for you today. I said I was going to get this one in Daniel done, and so here it is. And as a side note, for all those that are new or may not be aware, all study notes, all of these printable study notes or downloadable study notes are found in the description box under each video whenever you come across them, including this one. All right, so let's get started. As you can see, excuse me, as you can see, today's video is the revelation of Daniel 9, the end time understanding. I'd like to start right out by saying I'm not going to be speaking about what was, meaning I'm not proving out the count of Daniel 9 to when Jesus came the first time, even though it was incomplete. This study is the revelation of the is to come, and you will see the confusion and misunderstanding of the wording that's been taught in the end time version from all the churches for yourselves, including that famous verse 27 that they all like to go to. This was something that truly needed clarifying. However, none of what you're about to be revealed here today could have ever been understood without first understanding the foundation that opened this all up. And by the way, it did not only open up Daniel, but also dozens and dozens of scriptures from Genesis to Revelation in the end time understanding. Hopefully at this point, you will have already come to understand the foundation of these revelations, which are found in the first and second videos in the study note series that I refer to as the 2 keys of end time understanding. But if you haven't, but here they are if you haven't. Who the Gospels are speaking to, here's a link to the video and the study notes for it. Intro into the end time years revealed. Here's the video, and here's the study notes for it. They're all links that you can click to go directly to. Okay? Then, what often follows after having watched those two is how could all of this have been missed? That answer is explained in this teaching called The Differences and the Truth. Again, here's the video and the study note. To find it on our YouTube channel, you can come right here. You see home, videos, playlists. Under playlists, it's this series right here called The Revealed, the End Time Study Notes series. There's about 9 or 10 videos in there now. And also, all of this can be found for free at our website, ministryrevealed.com. All the printouts, all the videos, everything can be found here for free as well. So let's get started. Our focus today is in Daniel 9 isn't going to be all of it because there are a number of parts and pieces to it. For example, we see the connection to 70 years as well as an attack that has taken place through the middle verses. I've taught on these before, and due to the purpose of this teaching, they're not going to be part of it. Today's teaching is meant to be a brief intro into the revealing or to reveal the actual timing of this once very confusing piece of scripture. Our focus will be from the very famous portion, Daniel 9:24 through 27. Let's read it all first. Starting Daniel 9:24. 70 weeks, here's the Hebrew word, 7620. We will touch on that in a moment. Are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment, Hebrew word 1697, to restore and to build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street and the city shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince shall come, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. And as I said, I didn't want to get into the details of the 70 weeks, but I do need to make a couple points about it. The first is not so much the 70 as it is the word weeks. When reading this in the end time understanding, we can't look at it as times 7. We're looking at it, we're not looking at it, at what was, but is to come. And the word weeks means Shabuah, which represents the Feast of Weeks, or as most of us know it by, Pentecost, just as we read in Leviticus 23:15 through 17. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought in the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days. And you shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. Ye shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves and 2 tenth deals, and they shall be of fine flour. They shall be baked with leaven. They are the first fruits unto the Lord. We get the understanding here, but we're missing the definition still of the Feast of Weeks. So for this, we'll go to Exodus 34:22. And thou shalt observe the Feast of Weeks, which is Hebrew word 76:20, of the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the ingathering, and the Feast of Ingathering at the year's end. Feast of Weeks, Hebrew word 76:20. 70 weeks, 76:20. So this is telling us the Feast of Weeks is Shabuah. So again, we're not looking at this to say times 7. We're reading it for what it's saying, and that is 70 Feast of Weeks. There's much more we can go into that explains how this 70 weeks coming to an end could still be possible, considering the end of Israel's 70 weeks is believed to have been in June of 2019. You can dig into this for yourself, but suffice it to say that the answer is found in Leviticus 19 verse 23. So what's to happen now after the 70 years or Feast of Weeks have come to pass? For that, let us go into Daniel 9:25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem, we see in this verse that there's a commandment given to start to restore and or rebuild, which only means they must have been attacked and destroyed first, which, as mentioned earlier, is explained to us in the middle verses of the chapter. Now, the question we should ask is, who makes this commandment or decree, which is another word for it in the definition of the Hebrew word 1697? We find the answer to this in 2 Chronicles 36:21 through 23. To fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. For as long as she lay desolate, she keep Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth hath the Lord God of heaven given me, and hath charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah, who is there among you of all his people. The Lord his God be with him, let him go up. We see here relating to the 70 years again as the 70 years, and that the land is going to lay desolate for a period of time, so that the land enjoyed her Sabbaths. And finally, we see that Cyrus is the one who made, excuse me, the decree or commandment to rebuild. But now we also see that the land must enjoy her Sabbaths, must rest to enjoy her Sabbaths. That is this period, what is this period of time and why? Remember, we're looking at this in how it relates to now to the coming start of the end times. So why does the land need to rest, and for how long? Well, let's consider the now of it. Since Israel has come into the land and then captured Jerusalem, it has been a little over 50 years. And in that time, has Israel ever once allowed the land to rest? The answer is no. But they were supposed to, as per God's law, in Leviticus 25, verse 3 through 5. 6 years thou shalt sow the field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard and gather in thy fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field, nor prune thy vineyard. That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes of the vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land. So, in the 7 times 7 years of a Jubilee count, they should have done this 7 times since having the land, yet they haven't once observed it. This would mean that the land is in need of taking a rest for 7 years according to the law of God. So let's see what God's law says will happen if they don't obey this law. For that, let's go to Leviticus 26, 32 to 35. And I will bring the land into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And I will scatter you among the heathen, and will draw out a sword after you. And your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths, as long as it lieth desolate, and ye be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths. As long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbaths when you dwelt upon it. How much more clear does that have to be? And let's not forget that 2 Chronicles 36:21 told us this period was related to 70 years, and that Cyrus would come to power and be the one to make this decree. So now when we go back to Daniel 9:25, we can see and understand why what follows the decree is a portion of time called 7 weeks or Feast of Weeks, or as we now know, 7 years is mentioned. It has to do with their failure to have observed the Sabbath years once every 7 years since having Jerusalem. And now the land will take her rest as per God's order. And we're not done with verse 25 yet. The next portion tells us in Daniel 9:25, and 62 weeks the street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. We notice that there's a separation between the 7 weeks with a comma and 62 weeks. This separation of a comma and the word and tells us that these are not part of the same period of time, but are added together, making it 7 weeks or years plus 62 weeks. This period of time, this period of 62 weeks, we refer to as 3.5 years. I know and understand that some of you will say, how? Well, Well, for that, we have a lot of evidence, which, if you have watched the second video in the playlist of the end time years, it will have given you a lot more clarity. But I'll include one of those pieces of evidence in a moment. Let's keep looking at what's happening during this portion of time. It's saying during this time is when the rebuilding will actually take place. So after the 7 weeks or years, then the rebuilding will take place, and this rebuilding will go on for about 3.5 years. And once this period of time is over, it tells us in Daniel 9:26, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, proving to us, for one, that this period of rebuilding wasn't during the first 7 week or years portion, but clearly taking place during the 3.5 year portion. And that once this time is over, Messiah would be cut off. This brings me to where I said I would include one of those pieces of evidence, and that is Psalms 90:10. The days of our years are 70, our 70 years we were looking at again. And if by reason of strength they be 80 or 80 years, yet is their strength labor, the Hebrew word 59:99, and sorrow, the Hebrew word 2:05. For it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Meaning from 70 to 80 years is labor. The Hebrew word means miserable or misery, pain, perseverance, sorrow, toil, travail, trouble. And sorrow, the word definition is trouble, vanity, wickedness, especially an idol, affliction, evil, false. Okay, naughty, sorrow, injustice, or unrighteousness, unjust, vain, vanity, wickedness. And then a short period of time called soon, or about 6 months. So we have from 70 to 80 plus half a year or 6 months equals 10.5 years to also the same thing, cut off. In Daniel 9, so far we've had 7 years, land at rest, plus 3.5 years rebuilding equals 10.5 years to Messiah cut off. To complete the picture of the evidence in Psalms 90:10, we next have fly away. We fly away. This period of time is the 3.5 years of Revelation chapter 12, verse 14. Time and times and half a time, which brings the complete picture of Psalms 90:10 to 14 years. And this is now where the rest of Daniel 9 gets very revealing in greater detail. We just read that Messiah was cut off, and that this portion of time was not the first 7 years. So that would mean it's telling us Messiah must be here during this period of 3.5 years after the 7 years, since he is being cut off. And that during this period of time, after the 7 years of the land taking her rest, the next 3.5 years, the Lord is here somehow overseeing the rebuilding before being cut off. So, can we prove this is actually Messiah and not just a reference of some anointed person? Well, of course we can, or I would not have put this teaching together for you. For one, we see him coming at the end of the 6th seal in Revelation 6, verse 16 and 17. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Or how about Revelation 14, verse 1? And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with them the 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. See, so we see him coming at the end of the 6th seal, and we see him standing on Mount Zion with the 144,000. Let me also show you one more. I love this one. In Zechariah 8, verse 3, thus saith the Lord, I am returned unto Zion, and will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem shall be called a city of truth, the mountain of the Lord of hosts, the holy mountain. And a few verses later, in the same chapter, he goes on to tell us they'll now begin to rebuild, and that before this time, there was no one to rebuild because it was affliction time, and everyone was set against their neighbor. In Zechariah 8, verse 9 and 10, thus saith the Lord of hosts, let your hands be strong, you that hear in these days these words by the mouth of the prophets, which were in the day that the foundation of the house of the Lord of hosts was laid, that the temple might be built. For before these days there was no man for hire, nor any beast, nor hire for beast. Neither was there any peace to him that went out or came in, because of the affliction. For I set every one against his neighbor. These are clearly showing us the Lord will be here at the time the rebuilding will begin, after the first 7 years are completed. But now, why or how could Messiah be cut off? Well, looking at what follows 10.5 years in the 14-year revelation, we see that it puts us at the mid-trumpets time frame, or at the first woe of the 5th trumpet, which is when Satan will have been cast down, having lost his battle against Michael, as we read in Revelation chapter 12, verse 7 through 9. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Which is then followed by telling us the time frame that this happens. In Revelation 12, we continue from verse 13 to 15. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. We see this same 3.5 year reference from Psalms 90 and 10 after the 10.5 years, which was also referenced to Daniel 9 verse 26's 10.5 years, 10.5 year point to the cutoff, which would tell us the reason for Messiah's cutoff is because Satan has been cast down to the earth. So following the rest of Daniel 9:26, and the people of the prince, little p, shall come and shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. Now we can understand who this little p prince is, and we can understand how it is they'll be able to destroy some of the city and sanctuary. That's because it had just gotten rebuilt over the last 3.5 years. Then you'll see some great supporting evidence in the wording that follows with a flood. We just read this in the exact same context of time from Revelation 12:15. Satan will go after them with a flood. Okay? Same thing we just read up in Daniel 9:26. Next, we read unto the end of the war, meaning there's an end to a war that started around the time Satan was cast down to the earth, and went after the woman with a flood. It turns out we have that revealed to us in Revelation chapter 11 verse 7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the two witnesses, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit, when Satan was cast down and the pit was opened at the fifth trumpet, shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. Many think he will kill them right after their 1260 days of testimony. If that were the case, why would it tell us he makes war against them? It would have simply said he then kills them. We're told when they're killed in Revelation 11. It's only days before the end of the sixth trumpet time. This war will last 2.5 years before they're killed. And I'll show you in a couple of ways. First, we have understood that at the point of the cutoff, Messiah was, at the point of the cutoff of Messiah was 10.5 years of the total 14 years, leaving us only 3.5 years to go. Well, for one, we saw in Revelation 12:14 that that the ones taken to safety will be taken to safety until the end of the 14 years, because it told us time and times and a half a time, which, as explained earlier, due to the comma and the word and, it was a separation and addition, which made this 1 plus 2 plus a half, or 3.5 years to the end of the total of 14. Okay? However, that last portion of Daniel 9:26 does not go to the very end of the story. If we go to Daniel 9:12 verse 6 and 7, and one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. He's told this final portion will be for a time, times, and a half. This is not the same as time and times and half a time. The difference is 1 year. This description of time does not have the and addition between times, which means it is not adding the two, but simply counting. 1, 2 plus a half equals 2.5 years, which gives us our answer as to how long Satan brings chaos and reigns on the earth for. We're also told in Daniel 12:7 that at the time of the end, all these things, that at the time of the end, all these things shall be finished. We also find this in Revelation chapter 10, verse 7. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared it to his servants, the prophets. So, to this point in Daniel 9, to the end of verse 26, we have 7 years, land at rest, which is tribulation of seals happening. 3.5 years, city being rebuilt and temple, Messiah here until cutoff. 2.5 years, Satan takes his reign. At the time of the first woe, 5th trumpet, to the end of the 6th trumpet equals 13 years, leaving us 1 to go. The difference is 1 year. That takes us to Daniel 9:27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So now, who is the he that will confirm the covenant? It's Messiah Jesus coming back, feet down on the Mount of Olives after Satan's 2.5 years. When all these things shall be finished, it was the Lord who made the covenant at the end of seals, beginning of trumpets, which he then had to break because Satan was cast down and the pit opened. We read it here in Zechariah 11, verse 10 and 11. And I took my staff, even beauty, and cut it asunder, that I might break my covenant which I had made with all people. And it was broken in that day. So when he returns, feet down once and for all, he will confirm, Hebrew word 1396, confirm, be great, be mighty, prevail, put to more strength, strengthen, be stronger, be valiant. That covenant he broke when Satan was cast down, which will be in that final year, which equals 1 week or year, as the others did. Look closely at the wording in verse 27. He is going to make the sacrifices end, and because of the abominations, he is going to make it desolate, which is the Hebrew word 8074, to devastate, to destroy, make destitute, lay waste. Why would Satan, who was causing the overspreading of abominations and the sacrifices, be the one that's going to destroy what he was actually the one doing? Here's the he that's going to bring this destruction. In Zechariah 14, verse 4. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, not Mount Zion this time, this final time, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst. Going down to Zechariah 14:12. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand on their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongues shall consume away in their mouth. Just as we read in the next portion of Daniel 9:27, even until the consummation. Yet for some reason, the church has gone along with this thinking of Daniel 9:27's 1 week being about the Antichrist for hundreds of years. How or why could this have been possible for so long? The answer is they hadn't yet been revealed the 14 years. Tying it all together, here's what we have. 7 years, Jerusalem having been attacked and is at rest during the time of seals. Plus 3.5 years, Messiah having come down on Mount Zion is overseeing the rebuilding during the first 3.5 years of trumpets until cut off at the casting down of Satan to the earth. Plus 2.5 years, beginning at the first woe, at the opening of the pit at the 5th trumpet, during the second half of trumpets until the end of the 6th trumpet. Plus 1 year, the 7th trumpet, the Lord returns feet down on the Mount of Olives and destroys all who came against Jerusalem, equals 14 years. I pray this blesses you in drawing closer to him by understanding him better in his coming prophetic times. These are things to be understood. Otherwise, he would not have dedicated at least half his book about this coming period of time. So call out to him, seek him, and ask him if this be truth in understanding. God bless, strengthen, and watch over you all before, during, or after this time. In Jesus' holy name, amen. With love from me, Alan Dubray, and Ministry Revealed. God bless you. Bye for now.